Thank you for joining us today. Today's episode, slightly different. I've actually been nervous about gearing up for this specific recording for a couple of different reasons. Number one, we've got Mary Keogh, our new head of marketing at Map My Customers. She's a powerhouse in and of herself, married to an awesome dude named Mike. She's got 3 young kiddos, 6, 3, and 1. I think that's right. So she lives in sweet chaos. And she's got this really large, faithful, loyal, groupie following on LinkedIn solely because of the awesome thought leadership and content that she continues to produce. So, super excited to have Mary. Secondly, the other reason I'm slightly nervous about this specific episode is Mary brings in this guy named Luke. And truth be told, no offense to our other guests that we've had on the episode, Luke could be hands down the coolest guy we've had on the podcast. So I hope I don't get in trouble for that. I don't want hate mail after today. But Mary, let me hand it off to you for the official intro to Luke.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm telling Joe McDonald that you said that, by the way, JT.
I will get hate mail for that
one. So yeah, I was really excited, super excited to be a part of Map My Customers, first of all. Doubly excited because they have a podcast going, which is just warms my marketing heart. And the first person I thought of to invite on the podcast was Luke. So I know Luke through my former job. I was a marketing strategist at an agency called Gorilla 76. And Luke's company, Mactech, was one of our clients. And they are just the coolest industrial company. They have core values. They look specifically for culture fits. They make really cool equipment. And they just generally really respect and recruit for leadership. So Luke, first person I thought of, would love for you to just tell us a little bit more about you and your role at Mactech.
Sure. Being put on the pedestal as the coolest person to be on this podcast is pretty nerve-wracking for myself. But I think we were talking the other day. I recently was thinking that you're not doing a podcast for yourself, you're doing it for others. So if I can help others be cool, then so be it. And I also have 3 young kids that are tiny and very close together in age and live in a little bit of chaos like Mary. And so we get along well. I cry on her shoulder every once in a while and she tells me everything's going to be okay. I'm the sales and marketing director at a company called Mactech. We sell field machining equipment. Anyone that's familiar with a machine shop, we take that type of equipment and bring it out into the field. So we work in the industrial space on lots of industry type applications, shipbuilding, oil and gas, power plants, refining, all these type of things that move America and the world forward that you don't realize are happening kind of behind the scenes. And glorified industrial plumbers, if you've never worked in a machine shop, is one way I like to explain it in layman's terms. So I've been there 11 years. It's a family business. I work for my father. That's a lot of fun and has its own set of trials and tribulations sometimes, but I guess he probably taught me how to be cool, so it's paid off a little bit.
Don't leave out a really key pillar of this, and one of the reasons why you're on this pedestal of coolness with me was the way that you introduced yourself whenever Mary got us together for the first time. So don't just gloss over being the son of.
I told you I was the SOB.
Yes, there you go. I didn't want to lead the witness.
Yeah, I am the SOB, and nepotism is in full force on this podcast.
So you have to clarify that because we've got to make it abundantly clear. The son of the boss is what we're referring to. There we go. We got to spell that out.
Not the son of the other word.
Correct.
If you kind of find yourself injected into an organization through your bloodline or genetics or whatever you want to call it, there's some mountains you got to climb and trust you have to earn and things you need to do in order to run a good team. And I've managed and coached our sales team for 11 years now, for the most part, 10 or 11 years, and learned a lot along the way. And I've made some mistakes and tried to do things the way you read about on the internet or in a book. And sometimes the book doesn't tell you how to do it if you're the son of the boss.
That's really good background. Can we start real quickly? Like, how did you get specifically into sales? Share that story with the listeners as well. That's always a good one.
I've been in sales for sort of as long as I can remember. Actually, my first job, if you looked on my LinkedIn profile, was being a clerk at a movie store. And so I had to sell the new movie of the week to people that came in. But no, after
Wait, was it? Is this like Blockbuster?
yeah, but it's called Mr. Movies. It was a different chain, but it doesn't exist either. And uh, those jobs don't exist anymore. So I technically have my career started at something that has been replaced by robots, which everybody's scared of, but I've actually experienced. So
And no lasting effects.
yes, I think there's only one Blockbuster in Alaska or something that still exists. So I don't think there's any more Mr. Movies. I know that for sure. Straight out of college, I started in sales. I went to work down in Austin for a startup pharmaceutical company. We sold medical devices, and I was in inside sales, mostly working with pharmacists. It was a bad time to graduate from college in 2008, and a bad time for startup companies to raise money. So I've been replaced by robots. I was also laid off of my first real college job. So uh, that was fun, a fun first experience. But I bounced around for several years, just getting. It was a weird market, and every role I took was either inside sales or outside sales in nature. So I moved to uh, a pharmaceutical software company that was a little more well established, and my role was making 60, 70, 80 cold calls a day to uh, pharmacists all over the country to sell them a piece of software. Learned a lot there. Realized I didn't want to make 80 calls a day, cold calling people, and moved on to become a landman, which is going door to door trying to lease mineral rights. So I got a little bit more uh, sales perspective of being able to go knock on doors and talk to people, whether they lived in a trailer park or a neighborhood. I talked to a lot of different people, and it kind of built up that rapport to be able to pick up a phone or knock on a door and talk to anyone and relate to them and not go straight to the can I have your mineral rights, get to know someone. uh, ended up at a Ended up at a marketing firm in Dallas, another startup. I was the second person in the door. I think we called it internet marketing at the time. It's probably not called that anymore. Demand generation, or Mary will correct me.
Digital
Digital marketing.
marketing.
We called it internet marketing back then. Started that business at a dining room table with the founder, and moved upgraded from the dining room table to a coffee shop, and upgraded from the coffee shop to a shared office space, and upgraded that to a actual office. So got to be a part of like building an organization.
Over what time frame was that?
2.5 years. And I actually went to their Christmas party last week. They hold it around Easter. They call it Christmeaster, and got inducted into their Hall of Fame of previous employees. I was the inaugural employee, so it was kind of cool to see something I built. And they have 15 employees now and are rocking and rolling and enjoying that. And I will end. I'm probably going long here, but I'll end that story with when I worked for a startup and they were like, "Okay, go find us some customers." As the son of the boss now, who's the first person you go out to try to get as a customer? Your dad. So I knew Mactech didn't have much marketing horsepower. We were working in internet marketing, and I said, yeah, I can go sell something to my dad, and went out and Reap, the company I worked for, hired, uh, or I'm sorry, Mactech hired Reap, and I was actually able to uh, work for Mactech from an agency perspective. So I spent 2 years working for Mactech before I actually started working for Mactech, which is an interesting experience in and of itself because you get kind of an outside perspective and learn the business from a different viewpoint.
That's invaluable. So, do you think your father looked at that as kind of the trial for Luke before he did what he did in bringing you in?
I think I think he knew I was just cheaper to hire me in after paying the eight. No, I think it was a trial for both of us. I think I'm kicking my table and rocking my camera here now. Uh, I think it was a trial for both of us to understand if we liked working together. Because I think that's a when I graduated from school, I didn't want to go work for the family business. I can say that out loud because it was true. I wanted to go pave my own way and do my own thing and find something that I wanted to do that I was successful in. And it's interesting that we sort of started working together on a trial basis, as you say. But I don't think there's any intention to say, let's work together and see if this becomes full time. It just kind of organically became this thing where it was, man, I really like working with you, and it's like I really like working with you too. It's like maybe we should maybe we should work together permanently. Kind of like dating your wife forever, and finally being like, maybe we should kind of like put a ring on it or whatever.
That's awesome. Hey, add one more thing. I think it's valuable. I really appreciated you going through. You were getting your master's, right?
Oh, that's
And
right.
you,
Yes.
yeah, like add that in. That's valuable.
Yeah. So I skipped that portion. This is where I was talking about saving money. I was working for the agency. MacTech was a customer. If I'm really being honest, I didn't think I was making enough money at the agency. So I said, what's the easiest way to, jump your pay from 40K to 80 or 90K? And the answer back then was go get your MBA. I don't know if it's still the answer, but uh, I ended up going to get my MBA, and in that process, quit the agency and actually went to work for MacTech as their I was going to school full time, but working for MacTech in all the other hours of the day I had to run our internet marketing and help all sorts of projects and basically get paid minimum wage to get me to pay my bills through grad school. And I was able to go to grad school, and you're in your finance class or your marketing class or whatever subject matter you're taking at the time. And it seemed like, at least in grad school, they'd always say, okay, go find a company to, bring their financial statements to accounting class and analyze how they're doing. And I was just like, well, I know where I can get some easy financial statements. And I'd bring the MacTech stuff to class and like really dive a little bit deeper and study it. And then you're getting kind of a lot of talking heads in the room that you're taking what you're learning and you're taking feedback from everybody, and you're applying your learning to a real world experience. And in my real world experience, it was like my family business and passion project, so it was really nice.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Before we make a transition, Mary, do you want to add anything there? Any additional questions?
No, I think that was awesome. I think the way that most folks go from like 40 to 80 now is like they invest in Bitcoin. So I think you made a better decision in going to grad school for what it's worth.
I think this is where I'm supposed to say this is not investment advice.
Please do not take investment advice from the Field Sales Leadership Guide podcast.
That's awesome. Okay, so look, you have to share the story of like your rise to stardom in sales and marketing at MacTech, because I'm sure that there are going to be some people that are driving down the road that are going to want to pull over thinking about how their own outside field sales team would respond if this took place within their own company. So
Yeah, so
you got to share that.
absolutely. I think I already used the word nepotism. It's always on my mind. If people out there are like nervous they have imposter syndrome at any point in time, I think when you're the son or daughter of the boss, it kind of like multiplies it by about 10 because, do I deserve to be here? Did I earn this position? Uh, and on what JT's asking me on day one, I would probably say no, because Mactech actually used to not even have we call it an accountability chart, but an org chart. And on the one we used to not even have, we didn't have a sales manager. We had a few sales guys, a lot of outside sales, not a lot of process. And I was telling the story earlier about putting a ring on it and my father and me deciding like, yeah, I want to come work for you full time after grad school, and him being like, yeah, I do too. And even people here that I had worked with, because I was doing a lot of the marketing, saying, yeah, Luke would be a great fit here. So I came up for the first sales meeting with 10 people in a conference room, the whole sales team, ops team, and just kind of expecting to be a part of the group. And like the first 5 minutes of the meeting, Joel, my dad, I call him Joel actually, which is something, it's actually uh, a chosen mindset when just working with your dad. You either call him dad or their first name, and I choose first name most of the time. So if I say Joel, you know who I'm talking about. But so first 5 minutes of the meeting, step into the meeting, and he gets up there and this is great. Got the whole sales team together. This is going to be a great day or two of meetings. Oh, and by the way, uh, I'm announcing Luke as sales director for Mactech. And that was news to not 10 people, but 11 people, because not even I realized he was doing this. Uh, and I was sort of completely caught off guard. And it was interesting for me because it was exciting, but it was very unplanned, and I felt like I had sort of been thrust into the spotlight of the organization. And I'm a very kind of structured, plan, process oriented person and leader, and it just that's the difference between me and him. He soars high and makes quick decisions and has light bulb moments, and that was his light bulb for that quarter. But we didn't have a sales manager, so it was something that was needed. And I'm not sure, it's a different dynamic now. I'm not sure anyone on the sales team would actually want the role of coach and leader and manager at the time, like if it would have been open to everybody. But it is a fact that it wasn't open to everybody. It was declared down on the SOB.
I can't imagine um, sitting in that room initial, like, were there any gasps? Were you like looking around, reading the room of like, is anybody getting up and flipping a table or storming out of the room?
There was no storming or flipping of the table.
Could you have heard a
And
pin drop?
yeah, you could probably hear a pin. I think I dropped the pin and heard it. It's kind of one of those surprising, weird things that happened, and it's a funny story to tell, but it also helped shape me into kind of the leader and the coach and the manager, whatever whatever term you want to use on a given day. Kind of helped morph me into who I am now, because I realized from that second, from that moment, that I was surprised and announced into this role that I had to earn it every day, because I wasn't going to get the easy road of, you know, I wasn't going to personally take the easy road of saying, well, I got this job, I can half-ass it, I can do whatever. So from that moment, it really lit a fire in my belly to go out and prove myself and prove that we can make it work. And it was a little bit surprising, but there's some other famous father son combos out there that have done okay in the world. You got Bill Belichick working with his son. He's won a few Super Bowls in his life, and I'm sure I'm sure younger Belichick didn't exactly, he probably got his first job pretty easily with some team somewhere and ended up on the Patriots. So
You lost bonus points with me. I'm a huge Steelers fan. Don't bring up the Pats with
honestly,
me. Like, come
I'm a
on.
Viking. I'm a Vikings fan, so it's just always sadness. At
Dude, you're
least
in
he won some
Texas.
Super Bowls.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm in Minnesota right now. I grew up here.
All right. Good work. Good work. All right. Look, we got to go back to one thing here. You glossed over this earning respect. We have a lot of listeners that could be first time managers that got promoted because they were a great individual contributor. You're weaving in these adjectives of like coaching or leadership or management. I guess those aren't really adjectives, but leading a team, managing a team, coaching a team. When you're not the oldest and you're not the most experienced, brings a whole set of dynamics as the SOB, as the son of the boss to the new to the team. How did you go about earning the respect? And please, I'll lead you here, but talk a little bit about the sales processes that you began to do or implement.
I was actually thinking about this yesterday because there's a screen here at this office that shows work anniversaries, and I had just had my 11-year work anniversary, and I'm 37 now, which I can finally start saying I'm old. But that also means I think one or two of those years counted as those first marketing years that I was getting grad school, and I worked here. I've worked here summers in the shop, sweeping floors and painting boxes, and that certainly helps you earn a little bit of respect around a manufacturing organization. I never worked as a technician, but I've sweated and got messy and dirty out in the shop around these parts when I was in summers in college. Um, but not only was I the SOB, I was pretty young at 27 to be thrust into that role when the sales team is probably in their in our industry in their mid 40s, early 50s. Uh, a lot older than I am, so that's another interesting dynamic. Uh, how did I go about earning that respect? Is getting on the playing field and understanding their pain points because we didn't have much process in our organization. We just kind of we sold a lot of stuff and we did things differently in different areas, but everybody had their pain points, and I came in and said we need to develop a process that everybody can succeed at and build growth off succeeding together and working as a team to kind of start throwing the ball the same way. Um, the first the first thing I did with that was study and document what our sales process was, because while we didn't have it written down, we did have, everybody kind of has their organic mindset of what it is, and I did that by just following and going to each salesperson and asking them what their process worked, and kind of bringing together the whole organization into one process and making it easy and simple to remember and follow and drive sales across our pipeline from step 1 to step 7.
Let's go into the step 1 to step 7 really quickly. But as you say that, were there any like alarms going off with the way that a sales rep would articulate what they did for elements of success from one rep to the other? Were they totally different stories, or did you find some consistent processes that they all followed? They just didn't know that they were similar.
That's a good question. I think more so on like the just memory serving me, like the styles of salespeople was a lot different. Um, you guys are very focused in field sales, and when I started here, my sales guy in Minnesota was on the road like 90% of his time. He was going from hotel to hotel and buying dinner for clients, and he was in North Dakota one day and all of a sudden he's in Montana the next day, and administration and billing or whoever approvals are asking like why is he spending all this money, and that's a hurdle to get through. What is our sales process? How often should you be on the road? What are the expectations? Um, are you doing things correctly and appropriately, and thinking about that? And a sales guy in Louisiana might be sitting at his desk a lot and making calls and getting sales or opportunities in the door, a completely different, like, stylistic mentality. That guy doesn't get bugged as much by uh, the admin function of why are you spending so much money, because he's just making calls here and there. But he's getting bugged by the, like, leadership mentality of why isn't he out on the road visiting customers, and um, you know there were some no red flags there, and I'm not sure there's a right way to sell, but there's a right way to, like, think about what your strategy is and share what's working for one person, and spread that across your sales team rather than letting them all operate in little silos. Because I think everybody has their own style of selling, and if purchase orders are coming in and revenue goals are being met, you can be happy with a 90% driving around the country guy, as long as his hotel bill's not too high, and someone hitting their goal, just sitting at their desk making calls and bringing them in.
I kind of want to dig in a little bit, Luke, on what you just said about bringing opportunities in, because I think that's unique to you and your sales process is that you don't micromanage the activity level. So can you talk a little bit about that? And then I think we can just dive right into like how you track that across your 7-step sales process.
What are the expectations of your sales team, and what results do you want to get? Because it's important, because you can read and you can analyze and you can listen to how other organizations do it, but you have to find what works for your team, not just what worked in a book or what some LinkedIn influencer like Mary suggests or whatever. Because no, she's great, and there's people out there with great suggestions, but sometimes you have to tweak that suggestion to your team, because you can't just plug and play all the time. Uh, and something I learned from that coaching mentality is that what the end result is invoiced revenue, and what does it take to get there. Uh, we as a group try to create 50 opportunities a week. That's basically uh, we call it an opportunity. It's a deal. It's something we're quoting, something we have the possibility to quote. We try to create 50 of those as a team across marketing and sales every week.
Let me be rude real quickly. I want to define the opportunity. I've had many conversations with a lot of sales leaders and then a lot of colleagues over the years. An opportunity, in my strong opinion, unsolicited, I might add to this, is not, oh, that's a great target account. That's an opportunity. That's not an opportunity. Opportunity is a buy-in on both ends. We are going to explore this path together about a potential business solution in partnering. Is that accurately, whenever does that line up well with what you're saying?
Step one of our sales process is prospect/qualify. I call it the information gathering stage. And on that stage, there's a 10% chance that opportunity will close. I don't know if that's accurate, but that's what I set the percentage of possibility to close income. So if that's $1 million opportunity, there's 100 in weighted revenue in my pipeline, and that to me, just like you're saying, means that there's a conversation on both ends of some sort, that this opportunity could pay us money at some point in time in the infinite future. And it's an actual, in our organization, it's an actual application. It has we call it a scope of work. There is a scope of work of what the customer would buy. They've either asked for it, or we understand they want it or desire it. And like you're saying, it's not, oh, there's there's a XYZ company in the town across the way. That's a new opportunity. No, there's XYZ company is looking for this specific model piece of equipment, or they have a problem and we think we can solve it.
Yeah, there's at least a willingness to explore something together. Awesome.
So
Okay.
that is a true opportunity, because our opportunities go from the prospect information gathering stage and it directly gets our sales team is responsible for gathering that scope of work, and that is what we use the term chef, but we're not chefs. Uh, what is they're like we're not just an order taker, but you're like a cub reporter, and you are investigating with the customer what their problem is, how we can solve it, and collecting the nice juicy details to turn over to our operations manager, because the second step in our sales process is owned by operations, and it's to make a recommendation. What product do they need to buy to solve their problem? How many people and products, because we do service work, would it take to provide them a solution? What rental product should they rent? And then it goes back to sales to quote it. So from the start, it really is a prospect is not just someone who filled out a white paper. It is someone who has asked for work to be done or possibly buy something.
I've got like lasting scars over my career of, oh, that's a lead. Well, what makes it a lead? Well, they have a pulse, so therefore they're a good target for you to go after. And it's not an active opportunity.
If you want to get real fun, we call them opportunities in our system. And if, different sales organizations probably do it differently. We have a section for leads in our CRM, and we don't use it, because I personally believe that we should be chasing opportunity and not just dumping leads into a big list and having people call them and like try to prospect. We get a lot more opportunity out of the demand gen type mentality than here's a list of prospects in a region to go smile and dial on.
Awesome.
So we don't use leads.
Yeah, I love hearing that. I'm sure that's music to Mary's ears as well.
Oh yeah, I love that. That's amazing. I've also never heard Smile and Dial. That's a good one. I'm gonna have to start using that one.
Smile and Dial, my first the pharmaceutical software company I worked for, it was actually the customer success team, not the sales team, but he would put a little mirror on the corner of their computer, because he said that if you're smiling when you're talking to a customer, that they can hear it through the phone.
That's actually a true statement, and that is what developed that whole terminology. Rolling the clock way back, I used to be a physician recruiter, and so your 60 calls a day, I would have loved that, because our benchmark was 100 to 120, and it was brutal. Oh, it was brutal. Yeah. And, cutting the teeth.
Oh yeah.
I would like to hear a little more about the field sales aspect of your kind of earning that discovery call. So we talked a little bit, I think it was your rep in Kentucky who kind of goes door to door, and how you guys go from face-to-face meeting to who's on that discovery call, how does it go? Because I feel like that is just one of those pieces. So when we're talking to these outside reps and outside field sales leaders, they're not only missing maybe a full sales process, but a really well-defined discovery call. So I'd love to hear more about it.
Going from the field to the discovery call is actually new to us. So you can be in sales management for 11 years and still discover new things. That's something that should be addressed for anyone new that's getting into the business, or younger people, because I was on LinkedIn. I think I've told this joke to Mary. I was on LinkedIn and everybody's talking about discos and how's your disco? And I tend to follow a lot of SaaS people, and they're like disco this and disco that. And I was like, what the hell are people talking about? Dancing or something? What is that? And then I realized what a discovery call is. And it was actually kind of funny, because I'm probably going on a tangent here, which I'm good at, but we did a in February, the whole sales team met, and I had every salesperson bring their favorite win from the year. And I told them to write it down and bring it. And I didn't tell them anything else. And I said, okay, JT, what was your favorite win? Oh, the big bridge project with yada, yada, yada. And so I wrote it down. I put it on a big Post-it note on the wall. And I said, okay, JT, why did we win? Like on the spot, just tell me. And he, everybody, we went out around the room. We did 15 to 20 of them. And we started putting these Post-it notes up. And the why we win for 80% of them was we got operations and sales and the customer, and maybe their, even sometimes the customer is like a purchasing agent. So you got to get their shop guy on the call. And it's like every time we did that, we won one of these big projects. And we actually didn't have discovery calls in our sales process really. Like you see from the big Post-it notes, they organically happen, but they weren't a part of our process. And I'm trying to think about how to build them more into our process now that we all said, I was at that meeting, I was like, hey everyone, these are called discos, by the way. Like trying to act all smart, and they're like, what are you talking about? But no, I mean, in our business, Mary, back to the question you asked, uh, we are driving. There's a not a joke, but the fun way of saying it in our business is that if you're driving around and you see something with a smokestack or a steam stack or Caterpillar equipment, like heavy equipment in a yard, like I don't know what we can do in that yard or that facility, but there's something that can be machined in the field in a facility like that. So, now you'll be driving around and you'll probably notice a smokestack or a steam stack or heavy equipment and start sending me not leads, but opportunities.
Right.
But my sales guy in Kentucky is great. He he'll drive around and like find those opportunities and find the Caterpillar facility. And he's again, this is like a sort of undocumented siloed salesperson process that I'm trying to now pull out. But he's found that I got to talk to the maintenance manager at those places because they're the ones that purchase and fix the equipment, and we have the equipment to fix their equipment. And he's gone through his own trials and tribulations of figuring out when those people want to talk to him and how. And he's noticed that like 4:30 to 5 is like the best time to get them because they're kind of like they're not going to finish their project, or they're kind of checking out for the day and waiting for the 5 o'clock bell to ring or whatever. But he's like, that is the best time to hit them because they're always ready to talk and kind of, I think they just want to be done with their day. And they're like, oh yeah, I'll talk to the sales guy for the last 15 minutes or so. And he'll leave a brochure with them. But really it's trying to establish that relationship, figure out when they might need something, keep Mactech top of mind. And like I just said, hopefully in the future, pull them into a discovery call of sorts of um, how can we continue to help you. It can be hard for our industry too, Mary, because it's uh, a lot of our work is emergence, like very emergent type work. Uh, Something goes down in a plant or a refinery or a piece of equipment, and they need it fixed yesterday. So it's like, all right, let's get all the brain power on a call and ask the right questions and uh, get the right questions answered and get a solution going. Get it in the chef's hands to cook something up. But we have built templated scope of work documents of these are the questions that need to be answered in order for the recipe to be written really well. We've learned from mistakes. I think we're the type of organization that, we've made a lot of mistakes and learned from them, and we try to take that learning and apply it to the next job. Not only so we don't make a mistake again, but so we do the work better.
Let me add into there one thing. I love the exercise you did with asking the reps what was their favorite win of the year. If you haven't followed this guy on LinkedIn yet, Todd Capone, he authored the book, The Transparency Sale. He was a chief revenue officer for years out of the Chicago area. He's a gentleman that just I dig following because he's authentic, he's transparent, he leads with transparency. But one of the things that he did, I forget the name of the company that he was with right now, but anyways, they would celebrate the losses. And two key things came out of this. Number one, reps were no longer embarrassed or terrified to call their VP of sales, their CRO, I just lost this massive deal that I thought was absolutely in the bag with us. So it was this atmosphere of trust of like, it's okay to lose. But they would have these loss celebrations where it's like, okay, we lost, it stinks, but what did we learn from this?
I like that.
And man, oh man, like the things that they uncovered, you were talking about the different operations leaders that need to be involved to actually get get in the trust tree to earn the invoice. There were so many missteps that you can highlight whenever you celebrate the losses because reps start going, well, did you do this? Oh, you didn't get that person involved. And the learnings were just immense. So that's Todd cool. Capone, follow him on LinkedIn. That's an unsolicited plug. He's a great gentleman.
I would not be true to my LinkedIn self if I didn't ask the question, Luke. I love how passionate you are about your CRM. And I love it because you are not a tech-heavy organization. You don't have a million different tools that you're forcing your reps to use. If I'm not mistaken, you just have like one or two, yeah? So I'd love to hear like how you went about integrating sales tech and making it easy for your, older reps who hadn't been using anything before.
You say older techs, and one of mine is retired, but I think one day I'll start consulting on like how to teach software to the elderly or something. Because we have a lot of, to be fair, we have employees just retired that have been at Mactech for, bonked my table again. We have employees that have been at Mactech for 40 years and just retired. So people like it here, they stay. Come from a time when there wasn't software, and then it turned into Excel, and Excel turned into 70 different SaaS tools that you can buy for your organization. No, back to I think JT asked me earlier, what was the big way you really jumped into this SOB type mentality and earned the respect, and going out and getting a CRM to run our business on was one of my first steps. And it was big and hairy and scary to be like, yeah, my first step's going to be a new piece of software that's going to like fix the whole organization. Like, talk about people that want to flip the table over and leave the room. CFO's like, that's expensive. We don't need that. We have an ACT database and we have Excel. We made X million dollars last year without that. Why would we need that? But I went out and researched a lot of different CRMs and realized that it was more than just a sales tool or a marketing tool. Like, took the mindset from the start that it was a true business tool, and picked one that nobody's ever heard of called Pipeliner Sales. Still love it, and really turned it into a business tool. I actually remember breathing into a paper bag in the shower one day, like having a panic attack because you pull all your data and it's a mess at first and nobody's using it, and I'm like, what have I done? What the hell have I done? But about 2 weeks later, like, it takes constant reminder and constant approach to coaching and working with people, especially kind of a older generation of sales team and business team, to, hey, this is how you press the buttons. I've tried to keep it simple. JT, I told you the other day, I call it like the Ford F-150 of CRM, because it does a lot of stuff really good. It can keep you out of the ditch. It can get the information you need, but it might not have all the bells and whistles of the Ferrari or whatever other CRMs are out there. But we did. We started from the mindset that it was going to shift our business and provide us with real-time reports and where opportunities stood in our system, so that we know who we're quoting, not just who we're quoting and what number to dial on a Rolodex, but how much of our opportunity pipeline is in the follow-up stage, and how do we focus on the follow-up stage. And okay, let's focus on $75,000 plus opportunities in Connecticut to guys named Bob. You can. I'm a huge fan of data, and being able to you can either, what do they say? You can either fish with a spear, you can fish with a net, and it's probably good to do both. I'd rather fish with dynamite, by the way, than either of them. I haven't figured that out yet, but some days fishing with a spear and really, really getting focused, especially when leadership's saying, why are we losing we don't celebrate the losses, we might in the future, but why are we losing these big $75,000 sales? Well, sales team, let's focus on them for a week or two, or make a report that keeps us actively focused on them and driving forward and winning more of them. My funny story for another salesperson that retired, he was a technician that came up through our organization pretty much his entire career, and was just about as blue collar as they get, and just not computer savvy. Trained him on Pipeliner. It's kind of like, can't teach an old dog new tricks mentality. He still did great and did his best, and was pretty good at it, but he was like always struggling, and it frustrated me and it frustrated him, and I couldn't always figure out why. And he retired and left Mactech, and he was out in North Dakota, so he didn't make it into the office very much. Well, when he retired, he sent his computer back, and we had accidentally sent him a laptop with a European keyboard. So all his keys were like pound sign, and I don't even know what a European keyboard looks like, but someone was like, this is why, we made it harder for the least technically technological guy in the world, and nobody knew about it for years. So you always got to investigate the root cause of the problem, not the
He probably thought he had early onset Alzheimer's or something.
Yeah, it was funny looking back at it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Luke, I'm grateful for all of this. I'm really grateful for that close of the story there. Mary, anything else for Luke right now?
No, that was amazing, Luke. Thank you so much for coming on. You did not disappoint.
We're grateful. Looking forward to much continued success with Mactech, and keep being an awesome SOB.
SOB for life.
That's son of the boss. If somebody tuned in somehow late to that and they're thinking that I'm calling him names, that's not good.
No, I've been called worse in my life. So.
Luke, thank you very much again for being here. You've been an awesome guest. Thank you.
No, I appreciate it. If there's anything that listeners or young salespeople or people kind of getting their feet wet in sales management, because I know it's much more different than being in sales, have them reach out to me or ask questions or follow up. I'm always willing to help, because I've been through the struggles.
That's awesome. We're grateful. Thank you, Luke.
Thank you.